Commander Jake Mitchell walked into the massive council chamber, his boots clicking against the polished floor. The room was huge, with curved walls that stretched up to a dome-shaped ceiling. Hundreds of alien delegates sat in their floating chairs, representing dozens of different species from across the galaxy. The air hummed with translation devices working overtime to convert dozens of languages into something everyone could understand. Jake took his place at the human delegation podium, a small section compared to the grand platforms given to the older, more established species. The humans were still newcomers here, barely 50 years into their membership in the Galactic Trade Federation. Most of the other species still saw them as primitive upstarts who had gotten lucky with faster-than-light travel. The emergency session had been called because of a distress signal that had been bouncing around Federation space for the past 6 hours. Jake watched as the massive holographic display in the center of the chamber flickered to life, showing a star map with a blinking red dot on the very edge of known space. "Attention, delegates," announced the Federation's AI moderator in its emotionless tone. "We have received an emergency transmission from the mining colony on Kepler-4 for 2B. The signal is heavily damaged, but we will now play what we have recovered." The chamber fell silent as static filled the air. Then, through the crackling noise, desperate voices began to emerge. Jake's hands clenched into fists as he heard fragments of the message. Double quotes, ... under attack, ... unknown ships, ... they single quotes, retaking people, ... please, someone help us, ... children are crying, ... we can't hold them off much longer. The transmission cut to static again, then a few more words came through, ... harvesting civilians, ... massive. Bio-ships, ... request immediate military assistance. Then nothing but empty static filled the chamber. Ambassador Velth of the Centauri Alliance was the first to speak. His blue-skinned face showed no emotion as he addressed the council. "The signal originates from the Outer Rim territories. Kepler 442b is a small mining operation with perhaps 10,000 inhabitants. The distance makes any rescue operation highly expensive, and the return on investment would be minimal." Jake felt his anger rising. While Velth talked about profit margins and cost analysis, families were dying on that distant world. He looked around the chamber and saw similar calculations happening on dozens of alien faces. These beings were weighing the lives of 10,000 people against fuel costs and ship maintenance. "Furthermore," continued Ambassador Velth, "the Outer Rim territories are known for their dangerous conditions. Pirates, asteroid storms, and spatial anomalies make travel to that region extremely hazardous. Any rescue fleet would face significant casualties." Delegate Zorth of the Vegan Republic nodded in agreement. "The Centauri Alliance speaks wisely. These frontier colonies knew the risks when they chose to settle so far from civilization. We cannot be expected to risk valuable ships and trained crews for every minor emergency on the galactic border." Jake stood up slowly, feeling the weight of every alien gaze in the chamber. His voice was steady, but loud enough to carry to every corner of the massive room. "Earth will respond to this distress call." The reaction was immediate and overwhelming. The chamber erupted in a symphony of alien sounds that the translation devices struggled to convert. Chittering laughter from the insect-like Altarians, mixed with the deep rumbling chuckles of the crystal-based lithoids. Even some of the more diplomatic species couldn't hide their amusement. "The humans wished to play hero again," laughed Ambassador Crix of the Altarian Hive. "How refreshingly naive. Tell me, Commander Mitchell, what exactly do you plan to send? Your outdated patrol ships? Your primitive weapons that barely qualify as military grade?" More laughter filled the chamber. Jake knew exactly what they were. Thinking humanity's military was considered a joke among the galactic community. Their ships were slower, their weapons weaker, and their technology centuries behind the major powers. The only reason Earth had been admitted to the Federation was because humans were excellent traders and diplomats. As the formal session ended and delegates began filing out in small groups, Jake noticed something that made his blood boil. Several alien diplomats had gathered in a corner of the chamber, and credits were changing hands. They were actually betting on how quickly the human rescue mission would fail. He caught fragments of their conversation as he walked past. "I give them 12 hours before they retreat. Too generous. 6 hours maximum. What if they actually reach the system? Impossible. But if they do, the Kepler colonists will have front row seats to watch humans die trying to be heroes." Jake kept walking, his face showing no emotion. But inside, he was smiling. These aliens had no idea what was coming. For over 300 years, Earth had been playing the role of the peaceful, technologically backward species. It was the greatest deception in galactic history. Soon, they would learn the truth about what humans had really been doing all this time. Admiral Lisa Parker sat in her command chair deep within Luna Command, a massive military facility built inside the moon itself. The base had been hidden from galactic sensors for over 2 centuries, appearing on all official records as nothing more than a mining operation. Her fingers drummed against the armrest as Jake Mitchell's coded message appeared on her personal screen. The message was simple, but carried the weight of 300 years of preparation. Protocol 7 is now active. The galaxy needs to see what we really are. Lisa stood up and walked to the center of the command deck, where dozens of human officers worked at stations that would have amazed any alien scientist. The technology surrounding them was at least 50 years ahead of anything the Galactic Federation possessed, but it had been carefully hidden since the day humans first made contact with alien life. "Attention all stations," Lisa announced, her voice carrying across the bustling command center. "This is Admiral Parker. Protocol 7 is now in effect. I repeat, Protocol 7 is active." The response was immediate and electric. Officers straightened in their chairs, fingers flying over control panels as they began activating systems that had been waiting in standby mode for decades. On the massive holographic display at the front of the room, a star map of human space began lighting up with dozens of green dots. Each dot represented a hidden military facility that officially didn't exist. Asteroid bases that appeared to be simple mining operations suddenly revealed their true nature. Space stations disguised as research platforms began powering up weapon systems that could level entire fleets. Even seemingly empty regions of space began showing activity as cloaked shipyards came online. The deception had been perfect. While other species in the galaxy had grown comfortable and complacent during the long peace, humanity had never stopped preparing for war. Every trade ship that left human space carried hidden sensors, mapping potential battlefields and enemy positions. Every diplomatic mission included intelligence officers gathering data on alien military capabilities. "Admiral," called out Commander Tony Walsh from the Fleet Coordination Station, "all hidden facilities are responding. The shipyards are opening their doors." Lisa smiled as she watched the tactical display update in real time. From Asteroid Belt, facilities that looked like mining operations, sleek warships, began emerging into open space. These weren't the slow, bulky vessels that aliens associated with human technology. These ships moved with deadly grace, their hulls gleaming with advanced armor that could withstand weapons that would vaporize. Conventional galactic warships. The flagship of the response fleet was the Terra's Wrath, a vessel that represented the absolute pinnacle of human engineering. At first glance, it might have looked similar to other human ships, but appearances were deceiving. Hidden beneath its hull were weapon systems that used principles of physics most alien species hadn't even discovered yet. Captain Brad Thompson stood on the bridge of Terra's Wrath, watching as his crew performed their final pre-mission checks. These men and women had trained their entire lives for this moment. They had practiced in secret simulation chambers, studied alien tactical doctrines, and prepared for the day when humanity would finally reveal its true capabilities to the galaxy. "Captain," called out Lieutenant Amy Rodriguez from her position at the navigation console. "All ships in the fleet are reporting ready status. We have 12 vessels total, including Terra's Wrath." Brad looked at the tactical display showing the other 11 ships in his fleet. Each one was a masterpiece of hidden human technology. The destroyer Midnight Runner could move faster than any alien vessel while remaining completely invisible to their sensors. The cruiser Iron Justice carried enough firepower to take on an entire alien battle group. The support ship Hidden Blade could repair and rearm the entire fleet while maintaining complete stealth. "Outstanding," Brad replied, settling into his command chair. "Amy, what's our estimated travel time to the Kepler system?" 72 hours at maximum hyperspace velocity, sir. Our new hyperspace drives will cut that time in half compared to standard galactic technology." Brad nodded, feeling the weight of responsibility on his shoulders. In 3 days, the galaxy would witness something that would change everything. For 3 centuries, humans had played the role of the peaceful junior members of the galactic community. They had been underestimated, dismissed, and often ignored by the older alien civilizations. All of that was about to change. "All ships," Brad announced over the fleet communication system. "This is Captain Thompson. In 72 hours, we will arrive at Kepler 4 to face an unknown enemy. But more importantly, we will be revealing to the galaxy what humanity is truly capable of. The men and women who are depending on us for rescue will see that humans never abandon their own. The aliens who have dismissed us as primitive will learn that we have been preparing for this day since we first reached for the stars." He paused, looking around at his bridge crew, each face reflecting the same determination and readiness. "Engage hyperspace drives. Let's go show the galaxy what humans really do when someone threatens innocent people." The 12 ships of the Human Response Fleet activated their hyperspace engines and vanished from normal space, leaving behind only the faint energy signatures of the most advanced military force the galaxy had ever seen. The age of human secrecy was about to end. Captain Brad Thompson felt his stomach drop as the Terra's Wrath and her 11 sister ships emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the Kepler 4 system. What he saw through the main view screen made his blood freeze in his veins. The planet that should have been a peaceful blue-green world was now covered in an orange glow from countless fires burning across its surface. "Dear God," whispered Lieutenant Amy Rodriguez from her navigation post. "What happened here?" Brad stepped closer to the main display, his experienced military mind trying to process the nightmare unfolding before them. Massive shapes moved through space around the planet like predators, circling wounded prey. These weren't the clean metal ships that most galactic civilizations used. These vessels looked alive, their hulls pulsing with veins and arteries, breathing and moving like enormous, space-dwelling creatures. "Sir," called out Ensign Tom Wilson from the sensor station, his young voice shaking with barely controlled horror. "I'm detecting at least 40 enemy vessels. They're not like anything in our databases. These ships appear to be biological in nature, and they're actively harvesting the population." Brad's jaw clenched as more details appeared on the tactical display. The enemy ships were arranged in a systematic pattern around Kepler 4 like farmers working a field. Smaller organic pods were flying back and forth between the planet's surface and the larger motherships, each one carrying cargo that Brad's enhanced sensors identified with growing revulsion. "Captain," said Major Kate Stevens as she joined him at the command center. Kate was the leader of the human rescue teams, a tough woman who had seen combat in a dozen classified operations that officially never happened. But even her hardened expression showed shock at what they were witnessing. Those smaller ships aren't carrying supplies or equipment. They're carrying people, living people. The horrifying truth hit Brad like a physical blow. Through the advanced sensors of Terra's Wrath, He could see the harvester pods lifting screaming civilians from the planet's surface. Men, women, children, entire families were being collected like crops and transported to the massive bioships that waited in orbit. "Run a full biological scan on those ships," Brad ordered, his voice tight with controlled rage. "I want to know exactly what we're dealing with." The results came back within minutes, and they were worse than anyone had imagined. Tom Wilson's face went pale as he read the sensor data. "Sir, according to our scans, those aren't just ships. They're living creatures, massive organisms that have been modified for space travel and warfare. The smaller vessels appear to be some kind of spawn, or offspring of the larger ones." Brad felt a chill run down his spine as fragments of ancient galactic history came flooding back to him. During his training at the secret military academy on Europa, he had studied the old legends and myths that most civilizations preferred to forget. Stories of a nomadic species that traveled between stars, consuming entire worlds and growing stronger with each conquest. "The harvesters," he said quietly, and the bridge fell silent. Major Kate Stevens looked up from her tactical analysis with growing alarm. "Captain, if these really are the harvesters, then this situation is far worse than we thought. According to the biosignatures I'm reading from their ships, they've already consumed at least 12 different species. This isn't just an attack on Kepler-442b. This is the beginning of a galaxy-wide harvesting campaign. The harvesters were the stuff of nightmares, creatures from the galaxy's darkest past. Most civilizations believed they had gone extinct millions of years ago, but here they were, stronger and more numerous than ever. They didn't just kill their victims, they absorbed them, incorporating the biological and technological knowledge of entire species into their ever-growing collective." Brad watched in horror as more harvester pods descended toward the planet's surface. Through the ship's advanced sensors, he could actually hear the desperate screams of the colonists as they were collected and transported to the waiting bioships. Families were being torn apart, children separated from their parents, entire communities wiped from existence. "Sir," reported Lieutenant Rodriguez with barely controlled emotion, "I'm detecting massive energy spikes from the enemy motherships. They're beginning some kind of processing operation." The truth hit everyone on the bridge at the same time. The harvesters weren't just collecting the colonists, they were preparing to consume them, to break down their biological matter and incorporate it into their own growing mass. 10,000 innocent people were about to be literally eaten alive by these cosmic predators. Suddenly, the Federation's dismissal of the distress call made perfect sense. The alien delegates hadn't ignored the cry for help because it was unprofitable. They had ignored it because they were terrified. They knew exactly what was happening at Kepler-442b, and they were too afraid to face the galaxy's most ancient nightmare. Brad looked around his bridge, seeing the same mixture of horror and determination on every face. These monsters had picked the wrong species to mess with. For 300 years, humanity had been preparing for threats that other civilizations couldn't even imagine. The harvesters were about to discover what happened when they tried to harvest a species that had spent centuries learning how to fight back. "All ships," Brad announced over the fleet communication system, his voice carrying to every human vessel in the formation. "We are looking at the harvesters, the most dangerous predator species in galactic history. They think they can consume innocent people while the galaxy stands by and watches. They're about to learn what humans do to bullies who prey on the helpless." The 12 ships of the human fleet began moving into combat formation, their advanced weapons systems coming online. The harvesters were about to face humanity's fury. The massive harvester bioships floating around Kepler-442b barely seemed to notice when the 12 human vessels dropped out of hyperspace. Two creatures that had devoured entire star systems, a small fleet of primitive Earth ships, looked like nothing more than an annoying distraction. The largest harvester mothership, a pulsing organic monstrosity the size of a small moon, continued its systematic collection of colonists without even bothering to turn toward the newcomers. Captain Brad Thompson watched the enemy formations through Terra's Wrath's advanced tactical display. The harvesters had arranged themselves in a feeding pattern around the planet, with the smaller harvester pods moving back and forth like worker ants, serving their queen. Their bioships pulsed with alien life, completely confident in their superiority over any opposition. "They're not even looking at us," observed Lieutenant Amy Rodriguez from her navigation station. "It's like we don't exist to them." Brad's hands tightened on his command chair. These creatures had grown so accustomed to easy prey that they couldn't imagine facing real resistance. For millions of years, they had swept across the galaxy, consuming civilizations that fell before them like wheat before the harvest. They had never encountered a species that had spent 3 centuries preparing specifically for this moment. "That arrogance is about to cost them everything," Brad said quietly. "All ships target the primary mothership. Let's introduce ourselves properly." The moment Terra's Wrath opened fire, the entire nature of the battle changed forever. Brilliant blue beams of energy erupted from the human flagship's quantum pulse cannons. Weapons that used principles of physics most galactic species hadn't even discovered. The energy beams struck the massive harvester mothership's organic hull with devastating effect, where conventional galactic weapons would have bounced harmlessly off the creature's natural armor. The quantum pulses tore through the bioship's defenses like paper. Massive sections of the mothership's hull simply ceased to exist, reduced to their component atoms by weapons that manipulated matter at the subatomic level. The reaction from the harvester fleet was immediate and violent. The organic ships turned toward the human vessels with predatory fury, their bioweapons charging with deadly intent. Streams of acid that could dissolve starship hulls, viral projectiles that could corrupt any computer system, and psionic attacks that could drive entire crews insane, all launched toward the 12 human ships. None of them found their mark. "Adaptive shields holding at 100%, reported Lieutenant Mike Davis from the weapons control station. "Their bioweapons can't even scratch our defense systems." The human ships moved through the harvester attack formations like dancers, their advanced engines allowing them to perform maneuvers that should have been impossible. Terra's Wrath spun around a massive bioweapon blast, her gravitational missiles finding their target with perfect precision. When the gravitational weapons struck, entire sections of the harvester fleet simply collapsed into artificial black holes. The massive organic ships, which had survived millions of years of galactic warfare, were compressed into points of infinite density in the space of seconds. 3 harvester vessels vanished completely, consumed by the miniature singularities created by human weapons technology. "Direct hit on the primary harvester," shouted Lieutenant Davis, his voice filled with excitement as he watched his targeting display. "Their organic armor is completely useless against our quantum disruption matrix." Brad coordinated the space battle while keeping one eye on the ground operations. Major Kate Stevens was leading rescue teams down to the planet's surface, her soldiers equipped with powered armor that made them look like walking tanks. Each human soldier moved with the strength and speed of 10 normal beings, their exoskeletons powered by fusion reactors that most alien species still considered theoretical technology. The harvesters that had been collecting colonists on the planet's surface found themselves facing opponents they couldn't understand. Human soldiers walked through bioweapon attacks that should have killed them instantly, their armor adapting to each new threat in real time. When the organic creatures tried to use their natural weapons, claws that could cut through starship hulls, acid that could melt through any known material, they found themselves facing humans, who seemed completely immune to their attacks. "Ground teams report successful extraction of Colonist Group 7. Kate's voice crackled over the communication system. "These monsters picked the wrong planet to harvest." In space, the battle was turning into a complete rout. The harvesters, creatures that had never faced serious opposition in their millions of years of existence, found themselves fighting an enemy that had been specifically designed to destroy them. Human weapons cut through their bioships like lasers through tissue paper. Human shields absorbed their most deadly attacks without even flickering. "Sir," reported Ensign Tom Wilson, his young voice filled with amazement as he watched the sensor displays, "we've destroyed 37 enemy vessels. The remaining harvester ships are breaking formation, I think. I think they're trying to retreat." Brad looked at the tactical display and felt a surge of grim satisfaction. The galaxy's greatest nightmare. The cosmic predators that had consumed entire civilizations were running away from 12 human ships. The creatures that had struck terror into the hearts of countless species were fleeing like frightened animals. But he wasn't going to let them escape to harvest another world. "All ships, pursue and destroy," Brad ordered. "These things have been terrorizing the galaxy for millions of years. Today, that ends." The human fleet moved after the fleeing harvesters with deadly efficiency. Advanced tracking systems locked onto the bioship's energy signatures, while quantum weapons prepared for final strikes. The creatures that had thought themselves the apex predators of the galaxy were about to learn what it meant to face humanity's hidden fury. The age of the harvesters was coming to an end, and the galaxy was about to discover that Earth had been preparing for this moment all along. Admiral Lisa Parker walked into the Federation Council chamber 3 days after the Battle of Kepler 4-4, to beep, and the atmosphere was completely different from when Commander Jake Mitchell had made his announcement. The same curved walls and floating delegate platforms were there, but the mood had changed from dismissive arrogance to stunned silence. Every alien eye in the chamber followed her as she made her way to the human delegation podium. The emergency session had been called because the entire galaxy was talking about what had happened at Kepler 4 for to be. Videos were spreading across galactic networks faster than the Federation could monitor them. Footage of human soldiers in gleaming powered armor, walking through harvester attacks without a scratch. Images of human warships moving with impossible speed and grace. Most shocking of all, recordings of harvester bioships, creatures that had terrorized the galaxy for millions of years, being destroyed by weapons that seemed to bend the laws of physics. "Delegates of the Galactic Federation," Lisa began, her voice calm and measured as it carried across the massive chamber. "3 days ago, many of you placed bets on how quickly human forces would be destroyed at Kepler 4 for 2b. I'm curious to know who collected their winnings." The chamber was dead silent. Not a single alien delegate met her gaze. "For 3 centuries, Lisa continued, you have known humanity as a species focused on peaceful trade and cultural exchange. You saw us as eager diplomats who preferred talking to fighting. This perception was not entirely wrong. We do value peace and cooperation above all else." She paused, letting her words sink in as she looked around the chamber at faces representing dozens of different species. The insect-like Altarians, who had laughed so loudly a few days ago, now sat motionless in their seats. The blue-skinned Centauri delegates stared at their hands rather than look at her directly. "However," Lisa said, her voice growing stronger, "this peaceful nature was not the complete truth about humanity. While you enjoyed the safety and prosperity of Federation membership, we never forgot a simple fact about the universe. It contains threats that cannot be reasoned with, negotiated with, or convinced to leave peaceful people alone." On the massive holographic display at the center of the chamber, images began appearing. Not the usual star charts or trade statistics, but something far more impressive. Video footage from the Battle of Kepler 4-4 to be played for the entire assembly to see. Human ships moving like predators through space, their weapons tearing through harvester bioships that should have been indestructible. The harvesters you witnessed being destroyed had consumed 12 different species over the past century, Lisa explained as the footage continued. They had grown stronger with each conquest, adding the biological and technological capabilities of entire civilizations to their collective. They were the galaxy's apex predators, and every species in this chamber feared them. Commander Jake Mitchell stood at his station, watching as alien social media feeds exploded across his personal display. The rescued colonists from Kepler-44 had wasted no time sharing their experiences with the galaxy. Videos of Major Kate Stevens and her rescue teams were going viral across dozens of planets. In the footage, human soldiers looked like walking gods of war, their fusion-powered armor making them nearly invincible as they carried frightened families to safety. "Look at your own networks," Lisa said, gesturing toward the delegates. "Your people are sharing videos of human soldiers who move with the strength of 10 warriors, protected by armor that adapts to any attack. They're watching human ships perform maneuvers that your best physicists claimed were impossible." The proof was undeniable. Captain Brad Thompson's detailed after-action report sat on every delegate's desk, a document that read like science fiction: quantum pulse cannons that manipulated matter at the subatomic level, gravitational missiles that could create artificial black holes, adaptive shielding systems that learned from every attack and adjusted their defenses in real time. These technologies represent research and development that began the moment humanity first joined the Galactic Federation, Lisa explained. "While your species focused on trade profits and cultural exchanges, we spent our resources preparing for the threats that you all preferred to ignore." Ambassador Velth of the Centauri Alliance finally found his voice, though it shook as he spoke. How long have you possessed these capabilities?" Lisa smiled, but it wasn't a friendly expression. "Our first quantum weapon prototype was tested 57 years ago. Our powered armor has been in active development for over a century. The gravitational manipulation technology that destroyed the Harvester motherships, we've been refining that for 200 years. The implications hit the chamber like a physical wave. For decades, human trade ships had traveled throughout galactic space, seemingly harmless vessels, carrying goods between planets. Now everyone realized those same ships had been equipped with sensors that were mapping every military installation, every defensive position, every potential battlefield in Federation space. Every diplomatic mission we sent included intelligence. "Officers," Lisa continued, her words cutting through the stunned silence. "Every trade agreement gave us access to new systems and new information, while you saw naive humans, eager to learn from older civilizations. We were studying your strengths, your weaknesses, and your military capabilities." The Altarian delegate who had laughed loudest about human naivety now looked physically ill. The crystal-based lithoids sat in their seats like statues, unable to process what they were hearing. Even the normally arrogant Vegan Republic representatives stared at Lisa with something approaching fear. "But here's what you need to understand," Lisa said, her voice softening slightly. "We didn't develop these capabilities to conquer or dominate anyone. We built them to protect innocent people from the kinds of monsters that attacked Kepler-4 to be. The same weapons that destroyed the Harvester fleet exist specifically to defend the peaceful civilizations of this galaxy." As the session began to wind down, one truth had become crystal clear to every species in the chamber. The humans they had dismissed as primitive newcomers were actually the most advanced military force in known space. The same species they had laughed at for their naive heroism had just saved the galaxy from its greatest nightmare. When the next crisis came, and everyone knew there would be a next crisis, there was only one species they would want on their side. The species that had spent 3 centuries preparing for war so that others could enjoy peace. They would want to call the humans